What is up, guys? And we are back with another Make America Think Again episode, Matter Mondays. We're back. I have another guest with me. He goes by the name of Adrian Lyles. I never introduce a guest. Everybody knows that. I'm going to let some people hop in here. I want to see where you're watching from. Sorry. It's been a rough morning, all right? I've had technical difficulties. I've had pastors make it their mission to come after little old me. So bear with me. Anyways, guys, please make sure the live viewers match the like ratio. Please do me that favor and hit the thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube. Make sure you hit the thumbs up if you're watching on Facebook as well. Share. And when you share, make sure that the icon is public so that everybody can see this episode. Texas, nice. Ohio, New York. Where's North Carolina at? Watching from Minnesota. Calhoun loves Adrian. Okay. I'm going to be honest. I've never heard of him until I seen his, I think he commented on something of mine. And then Christine was like, hey, do you want him on your show? And I'm like, yeah, why not? So I'm going to be learning just like you guys are. Kansas. Where are the PTP mods? Callie, call me Callie. Yeah, y'all are going through it out there. Cash is good. I just text Cash earlier. He is holding up as best he can, keeping the message of unity and freedom going. He's actually helping a lot of people in there. So just keep him in your prayers. All right. Keep him lifted up. And I'm going to go ahead and bring the guest out here. Okay. You said it. So if I don't like him, it's going to be your fault, Jonathan, because you said I would. So, hey, I'm not a harsh critic. I'm fair. All right. I'm an equal opportunist. I don't care who you are. And I think everybody knows that watching me. But welcome to Matter Mondays and thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Suni. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. So I'm going to let you do your own introduction. Tell people what you got going on.
I'm a simple guy. I'm just a simple person. I put in a comment section earlier that Jesus is king, love is the only way, and human is the only race. I'm a father of two, a husband of one. I'm dedicated to community service and philanthropic work. I've lately become more known for a 501c3 organization that I helped found late last year called the Pull Movement, which is focused on dispelling the myth of race and educating on the destructive effects of the racial construct in America. That has been the center of a lot of my work lately, though I do so many different things in business and philanthropic work and community service. I'm just a servant. So if you want to sum up in one sentence, one statement, Adrian Lyles, I'm just a servant.
Okay. Tell us about the movement. How did that get going? What is that all about?
PULL is an acronym. It stands for People United in Life and Liberty. In the summer of 2020, America and much of the world was literally on fire around racial tensions and conversations and dialogues about the issues of race. And I began to just realize that everything that was being discussed was the same things that have been discussed for the past 100 years. And it's just pointing fingers at potential problems. And no one, I mean, literally no one was proposing viable solutions to the racial issues. And I've studied this topic for many years, and I began to work and coordinate with people who were able to help create a platform and take the information that I've studied and put it into a mission. And so the Pull Movement was formed out of watching and witnessing a world seeking answers and overlooking the most obvious one, and that is completely dismantling the construct of race.
Okay, I like that. You said something that I often talk about where we have everybody pointing the finger at each other and there's never any solutions. I don't necessarily believe in solutions because I believe solutions is why we're here. We've been given a ton of solutions, but solutions usually end up being the problem because they indefinitely create a problem. I am more on Thomas Sowell's side when he says there's just trade-offs. What are we trading off? because something's got to give. But I like what you're saying because I have been, so I was kicked off of Facebook for 2 months. Everybody knows that. I haven't been able to really comment and post things. So when I came back, I have more of a just really grounded approach now. Uh-oh. Grounded approach, just more of like common sense. This doesn't make sense. You're doing this on this side while you're blaming the other side, and people don't like it. They like it's especially folks on the right. I put up a post today since we're talking about race, and I said, thinking that you're superior just because you're on the right is no different than a racist white person thinking they're superior just because they're white. You know, there are a lot of people on the right that don't necessarily carry the morals that they speak about. So I like this approach.
Yeah, I saw that.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I saw that comment earlier, and it resonated with me because I don't even know if you realize how deep that message that you were saying about how if anybody views Republican or right or Democrat or left as superior to one group or the other, it is by definitionally racist. Most people actually don't know the meaning of racism. Racism is the belief that one group, defined group, is better than another defined group. And you're absolutely right. People don't want to look in the mirror at the group to which they feel they belong and accept that there may not be a superiority in certain senses. And if you believe that there is, it's no different than what we traditionally refer to as staunch racism.
It's the textbook definition. It's crazy.
Yeah,
Just think about that for a second, guys. Everybody that's watching. I was under the same assumption as well. I always felt like, man, the left is this and the left is that and the left. And I never once took a step back to say, what is the right doing? You know? And now that I have, people are just, they're not too happy with it, but we're forever learning. Just like when I was talking about the Sabbath, I'm not bashing anybody. We're forever learning. If you choose to do whatever you want, God gave us a free will. But simply sharing ideas and thoughts shouldn't freak people out the way it does. Holding up a mirror to yourself should be a freeing experience where you can say, okay, that's not right. Let me go ahead and correct that before the world gets to you and it's even more embarrassing. What do you think?
No, I think you're wise beyond your years in that respect. Most people don't understand what either one of us are saying right now. People will be listening to this, Huni, and it will go over the heads of thousands and millions because it is so simple. If there's a book titled The Richest Man in Babylon, and it talks about how true freedom financially comes when a person can tell themselves no instead of waiting for someone else to tell them no. Looking in the mirror first and saying, hey, I can't afford this, instead of getting to the checkout counter and letting the cashier tell you that you can't afford it. And so that introspection that you talked about just now of looking in the mirror first before someone else tells you what is obviously in front of you is more powerful, but people will overlook it because we're pointing finger society today.
Right. Do you guys have any comments questions in the comments? Let me know what your questions are. I have a question for you. How do you think we stop this? Well, it's almost like we've romanticized and sensationalized a lot of racial issues. How do we stop it? Or is it ever going to be stopped?
So my plan is to reduce it. To completely eliminate it or stop it is absolutely impossible. I think that the issue is not a something that can be solved with a checkbox or a poster. These are heart issues, and it would require a complete transformation of the hearts of everybody living, and that will never occur. And so I want to be clear with some of the missions that we purport with the Pull movement. Our mission, our goal is not to eliminate racism, because racism is a matter of the heart. We have no intentions of changing the hearts of mankind. Our goal is to eliminate the construct of race, which is merely just an educational thing. It's if you can educate people, the absolute fact of humanity that there is no other race other than human, allow people to let that sink in for a second, allow them to absorb the truth and analyze it and go and search it for themselves. This is not a widely debated scientific statement. This is held as truth almost everywhere around the world, but most people don't know it because of a simple lack of education. So we can educate people, and that's what we are, an educational nonprofit at the Pull Movement.
Nice. I'm glad you said that, because most people don't give that answer. They're like, no, we need to eradicate it. And I'm like, you can't, because that's that person's individual right and choice, active choice to feel how they do, which is why groups like BLM they're counterproductive. Okay. You're never going to stop a quote unquote racist white cop if they want to go ahead and target a black person. That won't happen. That is why the left's talking points are just circular arguments. It's never ending. They're going to keep adding problem after problem, after problem into it. And they got y'all going in a circle, chasing your tail. Same thing on the right. A lot of their arguments are circular. Okay. Abortion. Yes. I don't believe in it at all. I had an abortion when I was about 17, 18. It's not a great experience. In fact, it's probably one of the worst memories that I have. But arguing that abortion is wrong, we can't do that. Yes, it's wrong, but they still have an individual choice and right to go do whatever they choose. I don't believe our tax dollars should be used to fund it, but it's a circular argument. You're never going to change their minds.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, I don't know. You seem like you don't mind getting in trouble with some of the conversations and topics you have online. So I'll go right along with you on these things, Suni. So just let me know when we go off script. But when it comes to a lot of these topics, one of the things that I've studied when it comes to the construct of race particularly is that it goes back to two primary things. And it's not shocking, but when you think about it, it goes back to two primary things. The first is political power, and the second is monetary power. The construct of race was primarily created for power, political power and economic power. And what you were talking about as far as that circular argument, it's designed that way because we talked about solutions. If you continue to keep people on a treadmill and in a circle, they always are indebted and believe that if I'm elected, if I'm in power, I can convince people that they need to come back to me every 2 or 4 years to solve their problems. And so these individuals or groups are not interested in proposing something that's non-circular or linear in direction. It's by design circular.
Facts, man. I love having conversations with people that can just be real about what we're dealing with. I love having conversations with people that don't subscribe to a side. Like, I'm right leaning, but I'm more middle ground than anybody. I'm not going to argue with you about your personal beliefs. Like, you got that. I might question it, which is another thing people don't like because they can't give you a valid answer outside of how they feel. And when you take away feelings, you take away someone's in this day and age, it's almost their entire existence. Yeah. I asked a simple question. What does it mean to be a woman? I got feelings. Feelings. We didn't talk about the fact that, they have a uterus. They have boobs, a vagina. They have all these parts that make them women biologically. I got feelings.
Yes. It's so interesting that you say that. I've proposed this question. I've done presentations, whether virtually or in person, literally all across the country on this topic. And I've asked the question over 1,000 times in the past 12 months. What does it mean to be Black? And I'll tell you, Suni, it can't be answered. It can't be answered consistently. It is. I've come to the conclusion that Black and white are ideologies, not racial classifications. It is how a person feels. Like you just said before, it's how do I feel? And when a person ascribes to a feeling or an ideology, these things don't have definitional parameters. Mm-hmm. And if I say I feel this way, and you say that's not how you feel, but you identify as the same, then we don't have a uniform context as to what that thing means or is.
Yep.
And so if you say that a woman is just a feeling of some sort, then anybody can feel that way.
Yes.
Anything can feel that way. There's no
Thank you. They don't realize that they're emboldening. You are emboldening the left in their attempts to say that these things are simply social constructs. You're emboldening them.
Yeah.
Stop answering your feelings.
Yeah.
Stop. I'm going to pull up some comments and we're going to comment on these. We got a question as well. I'm sorry. I'm a Christian. I cannot be middle ground. It is either right or wrong according to the word of God. This is what I mean by complicating simple topics. I never mentioned my faith or my walk with Christ. I said I am middle ground, and I gave different reasons as to where we fall in the middle. Y'all got to stop doing that as Christians. Like, come to a conversation and listen. Don't listen to me to respond, to cast judgment. I'm not in the middle. I didn't ask you. We're simply talking about me. And I'm going to let you comment on this because I don't understand. I don't understand comments like this.
So I don't know if you know Coleman Hughes. Coleman Hughes, he has a podcast, and he is a very brilliant man. I love listening to Coleman Hughes. A few weeks ago, he mentioned a word, and I had to Google the word, and the word was heterodoxical. I had no clue what that word meant. And it Google it. but he described himself as heterodoxical, someone who does not ascribe to one theology, left or right. Just show me the idea. If it makes sense on the right, I'm with it. If it makes sense on the left, I'm with it. And I thought, wow, I'm heterodoxical too, right? This whole idea of ascribing to partisan politics, it is the exact same construct of race. If we think about how these constructs were created, they were created with polarity in mind.
Right.
They were created with thinking about opposites, as if though there's a great war at hand. Black is the opposite of white. Left is the opposite of right. And these whole ideas were designed to pit people against each other. As long as humans think about themselves as being at war, they will fight for what they believe. And so if we think of things like you're just mentioning from a neutral ground, saying, okay, I'm in the middle. If someone shows me a great idea from over here or over here, I'll choose the best idea, irrespective of the direction from which it's come.
Yeah, facts. We got a question. This is from Eric Peterson. What are some of your tangible goals you are currently working towards with your organization?
So we have the primary goal is to eliminate the question of race within organizations and governments. There are many places where the question of race appears, and we believe that by continuing to perpetuate the idea of race, it reinforces in a person's mind that they belong in a box. And so in environments such as in the medical industry, most people would agree that there is one human race, but when you go to the doctor, you're asked your race, and you subconsciously check that box every time you go. And I have proposed this question to medical professionals. If race is not biological, why is it being used in a biological scientific setting? And oftentimes that question is met with gaping jaws. I fully understand that there again, it goes back to politics and money. It is used, it's designed to manipulate people into believing something that's not there. So eliminate the whole construct from within society by removing the question from pertinent forms within society. We're currently partnering with organizations that are focused on empowering people. And so there's three tenets of what we're looking to do: to educate, empower, and encourage. To educate that there's one human race, to empower people to be more than the color of their skin, and encourage to be all that they can be. And so the empowerment piece, we found that there are a lot of people who suffer from identity crisis where they don't know themselves and they don't love themselves because they were forced to believe that they belong in a box that doesn't fit them. And so we're partnering with organizations that are centered around empowering people who have been lied to about their own self-worth or self-value.
That's dope. I mean, that's wow, we have a lot of the same viewpoints when it comes to identity and what a lot of people are suffering from. I always say, when you know who you are and whose you are, nothing can sway you. Nothing can sway you. This people are like, how do you get on here day in and day out and say these opinions and never waver? Because I know who I am and I know whose I am at the end of the day. So it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
These are simply words on the screen. Do they bother me coming from certain people? Yeah, because I hold them to a certain standard, which we all should. But anything else, it's that's simply your opinion and you're entitled to it. But when you know whose you are and who you are, the world is your library, man. None of this stuff bothers you.
That is the center, the foundation of our mission. I wake up every day trying to figure out how I can be a better me so that I can help other people be a better them, whoever they are. And knowing who you are is the foundation. And knowing whose you are just adds sprinkles on top of the cupcake. You're talking into a mirror right now. Like, I don't even know what we're going to get out of this dialogue, Suni, because it's like it's two people who have unison in thought when it comes to knowing yourself. And that's why I strongly oppose the construct of race, because the construct literally teaches that Sunni is not Sunni. Sunni is black, and black is just this label that assumes that everybody that has a slight resemblance of physical appearance or phenotype to Sunni has everything similar and common with Sunni. It steals away your identity. And then people go around believing that, and they never search for who they are. They never search for what their music interests are, what their food interests are, what their fashion interests are, what their hobbies and art interests are. They just take on the label and they take on the identity of an entire class or an entire group of people. And they then become outcasts and ostracized if they decide they want to be themselves. You'll hear this phrase, "Oh, you ain't black." It's like, and about a year ago is when I came to the realization that no, I'm not. Me and my wife and my children, we stopped checking the box of race several years ago, but it wasn't until last year where I rejected the label completely of black and white, like completely rejecting the label. I see that people are struggling to come to the realization that the person on the screen right now does not have black skin color. It is a struggle for people to see that. It is because they have been indoctrinated with the viewpoint that the color brown is black. But when we understand that these labels were created, black, white, all of them were created for the purpose of dividing people based on political power and economic power, you'll ask yourself, why have I been allowing this paradigm to infiltrate my thinking and the way that I even behave? And people before me for hundreds of years, like, why am I still allowing myself to be affected by that? And that's so difficult for people to come to that most basic realization.
Because it's too simple.
It is too simple.
It's too simple. Eric is the only one asking questions, bro. Where is everybody else's questions? We need some questions in here. This is probably one of the most, I'll put this up here in like my top 5 of interviews that I get to do. I get to talk to a lot of different people, but it's not often where you get to like vibe with somebody that's on your level intellectually. It's different, man. And I know you know what I'm saying right now. It's different when you can sit in a room full of people that understand the real battle that we're in, how you can put a curve in it, because you can't fix it. It's going to be what it is because people make their own choices, but just grounded people, grounded people that don't let feelings affect them like every part of their life. It's insane. So what does it say? Sorry, I don't have my glasses on. I don't even know where they are. All right. Fair to summarize, fair to summarize it by saying that you embody a strong American value of family, faith, and opportunity.
That would be not in that order, but yes, I value and embody American family, faith, and opportunity. But faith comes first for me. I said earlier today to a friend of mine that if you manage to separate a person from their core beliefs, what you have left in front of you is a fraud.
Yeah.
And so I don't believe that you can separate someone from their belief and still have anyone genuine standing in front of you. And so my faith comes first, and all of those other things that were mentioned comes below that in various orders.
Does Morgan Freeman make a valid point in that by not talking about race, it will help rid our culture of racism?
Yeah, so I remember when Morgan Freeman made that statement. Most people don't know that he was later forced to recant on that. That's cancel culture has been going back for a while. So this isn't new. But Morgan Freeman, in his comments of not talking about race, I don't know how we can educate that race is a myth by not talking about it. I think that we need to educate first on what race means and what races there are, and there's only one. And then at that point, we'll find it equally ridiculous. We don't talk about people's eye color, right? I mean, we don't go around talking about, hey, I met somebody with green eyes today. We don't. We don't do that. And that will ultimately occur when we realize how foolish the construct of race is in America, and also realizing that it's not this way around the world. America has a fixation on skin color that is not the same around the world. And we can talk about that. And I think that'll raise a lot of questions as well if we talk about the global perspective of race.
Yeah, we can. Let's here, I'll write it down so we can go back to it because I don't want to forget.
Yeah.
We have a question up here. What's this question? What is the craziest argument you've had against your platform? Oh man, I'm not even gonna get into mine. I'll let you go.
So Suni, I don't argue. I know a lot of times people may have seen some of my comments on social media and think that it's arguing, but I don't argue with a lot of people. But there's the greatest pushback. I was talking to a corporate executive. I've talked to a lot of corporate executives about removing the question of race from their organization, from hiring applications and such like. And the question that was posed was, what happens when we no longer have race data? How does America look in a place where there is no race data? And it seemed difficult for someone to understand that there could possibly be a world that doesn't classify people based on the color of their skin. Mm-hmm. And if you look a little east of America to Europe and Germany, you'll see a little different way that they look at people. So most people don't know this, but currently Germany is seeking to remove the word race from their constitution. And so where like in our constitution, where we talk about, everybody has freedom regardless of religion, gender, and race, and our Bill of Rights. Well, they're looking to remove the word because they realized the last time that they classified and categorized their people based on this construct of race, there was this guy, you may have remembered his name. I'm trying to think of what it was. That's it. Hitler, Adolf Hitler. He killed a couple of million people based on the way that he viewed their racial classification. And Germany realizes that it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea to group people based on these factors. And so in Germany, a lot of and I've never been to Germany. These are only things that I've studied. So if someone chimes in and asks, when's the last time you've been to Germany? Look, I've never been to Germany, but I've studied this topic. And there's places around the world that completely looks at race differently than the way we do. And here's a question. I'll let you get to this one really quick. And someone asked me, what happens if the people that identify as Black no longer accept you as Black? And I respond like, I don't have anything to do with how other people view me. That's their problem. That's not my issue. How other people view me is not what I wake up in the morning thinking about.
Yeah. We've already been ostracized. Like, I'm not Black anymore. I don't care. Do you think the term racist has lost its meaning? Absolutely. As much as it's used today. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's the problem with racism today, is that everything. I was gonna do a musical along the same song pattern of the Legos movie. Everything is racist. It's because we now live in a society where everything is racist. Well, if everything is racist, then nothing is racist. And we know that there is true racism in the world. There are truly bigoted people, and that racism exists. The problem is, I was reading an article earlier today, Suni, from the Washington Post. The Washington Post, I think it was last week, was talking about how the names of birds is racist.
Yeah. What?
I'll send you the article when we get off this call. The name of birds are racist. And I thought, oh my goodness, whatever happened to little boys hanging from trees or being drugged behind Ford pickup trucks? I mean, whatever happened to the days where you couldn't sit at a lunch counter because of the color of your skin? My parents were born in the 1940s and in Alabama. And so it sort of touches me when people talk about the things that are racist today, because my father was literally denied many times his right to register to vote. He walked across Edmund Pettus Bridge. So it's like when people talk about a picture on a box of cereal is racist, like it's literally offensive to me, because it diminishes like what real racism in the world looks like.
Man, I say this all the time. I try to relate everything that we talk about, because I know people aren't going to understand. I try to relate it to something in culture that they know. So when I see a Black person talk about, oh, we get discriminated against, I say stolen valor. It's not your fight. You didn't go through it. You didn't experience it. You don't know what it's like. So walking around with that mentality, attaching yourself to somebody else's trauma, it's stolen valor. And it's disrespectful to the ancestors. Yeah. If I came back, when Jesus comes back and I had to see all these people walk around talking about what they went through and how it was hard being Black, I would be ready to walk down the line and slap them all, because it's disrespectful. My grandmother was born in 1918, okay? She, a Native American woman. She looked white, Native American and Irish.
I love it.
She was discriminated against so much in Alabama simply because her skin was white. There would be places where they wouldn't accept her, Black folks. So I don't see anywhere where it says Black only, white only. I don't see any bathrooms that say that, any water fountains. I don't see it anywhere. It's stolen valor.
So I'm gonna give you, I've studied these things and I have these conversations daily, and I don't know how deeply you talk about race and racism. I don't spend a lot of time talking about racism because that's a circular conversation. I spend more time talking about race and the elimination of that. But what do you think, Suni, about like systematic racism in America? Do you think that America is systematically racist? Well, wait, before you answer that question, as you ponder, let's define the term. Like, because there are the likes of, of this world right now in America that disagrees the term racism, what it means. Ibram X. Kendi has a different definition of what racism means than I do, and Merriam-Webster's dictionary does. So I wanted to make sure that we're talking about the same thing when we converse on this topic.
Okay, let me see. Let me look up the definition first so people don't flip out. I personally, while I'm pulling this up, I think the idea of systemic racism is a lie, because like you said, race, in my personal opinion, is null and void. It's like a non-factor, because these same systems that they're talking about, they affect white people too. There are white people in the inner city, and they're suffering the same fate as these people who don't have the most opportunities. They're not getting the help that they need. White people suffer the same fate when it comes to police. The justice system railroads anybody who does not have the means to fight or get a lawyer. So systemic racism is complete BS. And you said it earlier. You mentioned what's his name? Hitler. It
Yeah.
kind of similarly emulates what Nazi propaganda would be. Tell a lie big enough, people start to believe it. I don't see where I really don't see where systemic racism is a big deal. Now, do we have pieces of legislation that definitely target certain demographics? Yeah, I won't take that away. Absolutely.
All right. So, race, the term itself, I've tried over the past several years to find some sort of well-recognized literature that assigns the definition of race the same way that I believe the word itself should be defined. And that means that race is a class or defined group. And so whatever that group is, if there are parameters to it, then you can say this is a class or classification or a race of that, whether it's a race of people, whether it's a race of shapes, whether it's a race of colors, a defined group or classification. So for example, a square is a class of shape or a race of shapes, but a square has a defined parameter. A rectangle is not a square. A trapezoid is not a square. A square has 4 equal sides and 4 equal lengths. So when we're talking about race, we must understand first that there is no such defined parameters for humans. There is no way to classify humans based off of these arbitrary factors of Black, white, Asian, etc. So then when we talk about racism being systemic, I want to be clear from my point of view that the system of America, the systems, and that is the education system, the banking and financial system, the healthcare system, all of these systems were built on this construct of race. The idea that people are inherently different based off of their phenotype or physical appearance. And I would love to say that America has moved away from that, but it's sadly true that we are moving more towards that with some of the legislation we're seeing coming out of Washington now than we were just 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so if I were to answer the question of whether or not I believe America is systemically racist, now I think we have to delineate and differentiate racism from hatred, because something can be racist and not be hateful, right? I can believe that Republicans are better at economic policies than Democrats, but that doesn't mean I hate Democrats, right? That just means that I believe one is better. I can say that Jamaicans are faster runners than Ethiopians. That doesn't mean I hate Ethiopians, right? But definitionally, if I'm putting one group above another, that means that it's racist, right? And so if I ask the question, is there anything in America in a system, in a systematic way that puts one group over another, then I'll ask the question that way. What do you think, Suni? Is there anything in America today systematically that places one group of people over another, whether it's in the healthcare system, the education system, in the finance system? What would you say?
Absolutely. I would say, yeah. I mean, if we're talking in terms of class and people feeling they're superior over another class, that's textbook racism.
Yeah.
It's racism no matter how you spin it.
It is. And I don't say that a lot because I know that people aren't ready to understand what you and I just said there. But if the system is designed not hatefully, not just based on skin color, not just based on dark skin and light skin, but if we have any policy that takes one class or group of people and pits them against the other and says, this is better. Like I was talking to someone earlier today, we've got legislation that was passed that gives farmers $5 billion. Now, we can get as deep into politics as you want to on this show. It's your show. So I'm just here I'm here to ride with you. But $5 billion was set aside for Black farmers. If you identify as Black, and you are a farmer, there's $5 billion in the recent COVID relief bill that gives loan forgiveness for your agricultural loans. Now, I don't know what it means to be Black, right? I've said that before. Like, I don't even know how to define the term. So I've got some friends of mine who are farmers with very pale, light colored skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes. I said, hey, just go apply for the loan and just check whatever box it takes to get the forgiveness. Who can say you're not?
Right.
Like, until you can define what it means to be Black, just tell me, just check the box of whatever it takes to get that loan forgiveness, because that is definitionally racist. And I can't remain silent on that just because it favors people who look like me. I mean, racism is racism. And imagine if all of the people in the 40s, 50s, and 60s who were against racism only was against racism that disfavored them.
I mean, aren't you, even then, that's still the system being racist by offering one person something and not the other. Why? What's so good about Black people that they deserve? What is it? You said 500 billion or 50?
5 billion. It was 5 billion.
5 billion. And I'm just gonna ask this question: how many Black farmers do we have?
Sunni, I'm not. You throw out stuff. I can't touch it. I can't. I can't touch that.
Well, virtue signal much? I don't know. I'm just saying. Wait, why can't we put that money into places that actually need it? I'm just thinking ahead.
Yeah. So I have this viewpoint that anytime any policy that looks at catering to people based on skin shade will ultimately overlook the overall problem. If farmers are struggling, let's help farmers. If children are hungry, let's feed children. Yeah. If police is overly aggressive, let's look at policies that can help reduce overall police aggressiveness. When we narrow it down to police who are aggressive to a certain person based off of their skin shade, it's like, wait a minute. We're overlooking the other thousands of incidences that this may have occurred. So we minimize the problem when we minimize the scope. Because a lot of these problems are not just exclusive to people based on the shade of their skin. They're typically universal problems, or at least countrywide. And so as long as we look at it from a perspective of just helping or aiding people who are in this narrow spectrum, we overlook the solution or the attempt to solve the overall problem. And it just delays any potential solution that we would have in that space.
It keeps us in a circular argument.
Yeah.
And that's why people get frustrated. That's why I ask so many questions. I'm like, what? You're offended by what? Okay, I'm rude. What did I say that was rude? Well, you said this and it came across rude. So is it rude or it came across rude? Which one is it? And they're like, you're just attacking me. And I'm like, no, I'm trying to pick your brain so that you understand that you're offended over words on the screen.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, people are easily offended. And they never want to be challenged on their perspectives or paradigms. Most people don't think, though, Sunni. You know that. Most people, they only repeat what they've heard. What grandma said is true, and I'm going to take that to my grave like she took to her grave. And people don't even think. And when they're challenged with basic questions like what you're proposing and what I've proposed, it makes their minds hurt.
Yep. They short circuit. Thank you for coming on. This was one of the best interviews I've got to do. I hope people go follow your, let me pull it up again. Jeez, what the heck? Follow his organization and get involved, go support. I think this is something that needs to be talked about. We need to stop talking about race like it's the end all be all. Who cares, man? Like when you get to heaven or hell or wherever your soul is going to rest, nobody's going to know that you are Black or white, nor are they going to care. They're not going to care.
That's it.
Do you have any other social medias? Instagram, YouTube?
Yeah, so our social media presence is also on. You can search the Pull Movement on Instagram and YouTube. Uh, go take the Pull Pledge. So if you go to our website at letuspull.com and take the Pull Pledge, which is an acknowledgement that you are human, and what we're looking to do is to get as many humans as possible to support this initiative, and take what we have started to new heights. This is not something that we can do individually on our own. And so everybody has to play a part and get involved.
Facts, man. Well, thanks for being here. Hopefully we'll have you back and I can have you on my show. I have to be reserved and professional on Mata. I can't talk the way I normally talk than I do on Hot Mic. People are used to seeing two different sides of me. So we'll have you on Hot Mic too, and we can really get into I want to talk to you about the crime and why it's ignored and why legislation gets pushed through and they still ignore, quote unquote, the Black plight. It's absurd to me. I don't understand it, but I think that would be a good conversation for us to get into. Thank you guys for joining another episode of Mata. This will be uploaded to Be the Change podcast. If you want to follow that, we'll be back on Monday with, I forgot my guest's name. Her name is Quisha. Okay. And she actually fought against CRT, against her city council in Florida. And I'm going to be bringing her on here. We're going to be talking about how ridiculous all this stuff is. Just absolutely ridiculous. Please make sure you share this. If you're watching on YouTube, hit the thumbs up, hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button so that you never miss another video. And thank you again for being here. I appreciate it.
Thank you.